Ciao everyone, welcome back to another slow fashion video. This week I wanted to talk about, I'm gonna sound so dramatic, a life-changing thing that I have recently done that has immensely helped me solidify and stick to my wardrobe plan. So today I want to share how I built my wardrobe plan and how I was really able to zero in and cultivate the style I want to work towards both for 2021 and beyond. Very dramatic today. I think it's this crazy dynasty inspired necklace that I found at Value Village. Anyway, before diving in to this revelatory exercise, oh god, I shouldn't oversell it. Before we jump in, let me remind you that my live Shop Your Closet event is happening on April 10th at 1 p.m. EST. It is so much fun. We shop the closets of two very different and unique women, so we get to really figure out and break down elements of style and really understand what it is about elements of style that creates different unique looks so that you can go home and apply them to your own closet and not feel so bound by trends. I think it's an incredibly liberating and fun event that really changes the way you look at your closet. Everyone who signs up also gets an exclusive discounted rate for my virtual styling services, which I will be launching in the near future. So it's a good one. So I will leave all of the details in the description box below. And with that being said, let's just get into it. I created a Pinterest board that was specifically suited to 2021 and the direction that I want to take my closet, because I had made a lot of lifestyle changes over the last 5 to 10 years and I hadn't really accommodated my wardrobe to all of those changes. So I really wanted to be intentional about doing that going forward, and I'm not gonna lie, I got the idea from Audrey Coyne, but I wanted to share with you the steps that I took to create that wardrobe plan and how I'm applying them. So the first step is you build this board from scratch, and it's like a pinning frenzy. Don't worry about whipping out your editor's eye yet. You're going to do all of that nitty-gritty culling a little bit later. So the way I filled up this board with as much as possible was, first I looked back on some of the pins I had already pinned and that I still liked and were still relevant. I looked at the suggested pins from those to see if there were any additional recommendations. Another way that you can find inspiration on Pinterest is to simply search for a particular aesthetic. This works, of course, if you know the type of aesthetic that you're looking for, and if you don't, that's okay, we can get to that in a moment. But I was searching for things like French-inspired style, Italian-inspired style, which I love, but I also searched for things like minimalist outfits. The next thing I did was I searched the names of bloggers and Instagrammers whose style I really love. Something else that you can do, especially if you know that there are items in your closet that you already really love, is do a reverse lookup with those items. So if you know you love button-down shirts, for example, put button-down shirt outfits in Pinterest, and I was able to find so many ideas. And again, by clicking on those additional suggested pins, I was able to kind of go into the rabbit hole and find even more ideas. I also encourage you to pin pictures that aren't necessarily clothing. So whether it's a travel destination that you love, or even like a bouquet of flowers or color inspiration, I would definitely recommend adding that to your board too. What this really helps with is setting an overall mood and aesthetic for yourself and your personal style. Next, what I did is I just let that Pinterest board sit for a few days. After about a week or so, I went back to my Pinterest board, and this is where I sat down and I really went through it much more carefully. I kind of went over it with 3 different filters. The first was looking at everything that I had pinned and double checking whether it actually suited my lifestyle or my life stage. So this also included a little bit of aspiration, like where I want to go in the next couple of years. It's almost like a reality check. Like, are these things that I would actually wear on a daily basis? Anything that didn't make the realistic lifestyle cut got deleted. I was pretty ruthless, and I think it's important to be ruthless at this stage because you don't want this board to be overwhelming. The next filter that I looked at was personal style and my body type. I really took a hard look at the garments and the silhouettes and the color palette to make sure that these were colors and shapes and fits that actually suited me, my tastes. It's a really good reflective process. This is also a great time in the whole process to identify your 3 descriptors. Take a look at your board and try and pinpoint 3 moods or overarching themes. So perhaps it's more of a mood like romantic or edgy, or it could even be a descriptor such as, you know, bright and punchy colors. These descriptors are not set in stone. Of course, they can change over time, but I do think it's nice to have these like guideposts in our head, and it's so much clearer when you have a visual in front of you that you've curated yourself. The final filter that I use to really edit my wardrobe plan is to make sure that what I have pinned and the aesthetic direction I'm going for is also in alignment with my values. This is a little bit more intangible. It's almost more like a mental check to make sure that whatever you add into your closet can be found in a way that is in alignment with your values. So for example, if you have a lot of very trend-forward pieces on your board, but you want to start shopping more secondhand, you might want to make a mental note that you might require a little bit more patience when you are adding items to your closet so that they go through the fashion cycle. But I do think it's an important step, because when you wear clothing that is also in alignment with your values towards the environment, towards social issues, you really do feel a lot better in your clothes. Okay, so now you've got this beautiful visual wardrobe plan. Now what? Here's where I think it gets interesting and where you can actually make good steps in figuring out where you want your wardrobe to go. So what I did was I took out a small rack and I took out everything in my closet that I felt resonated or was in alignment with my visual wardrobe plan. Everything else stayed in my closet. I do not recommend getting rid of items just because they don't perfectly match your wardrobe plan board. I think that takes a lot more reflection. Decluttering should be taken quite seriously because we want to keep clothes out of landfill. If you have questions about decluttering, I did do a video about how to do it consciously. I will link it up here. This is a good time to assess what's on your rack and identify what are the style points of these pieces that you really love. Is it a certain silhouette? Is it a certain texture or fabric? I would definitely take a moment to write these little style points down so that you make smarter decisions down the road and really use them to hone in on your personal style. What I did next was I looked at any discrepancies between my visual wardrobe plan and what I had on that rack. So I made sure to identify the gaps as well as any of those little style revelations that I had. And before updating my shopping list, I went back into the items that I hadn't pulled from my closet to see if they could fill any of the gaps that maybe I hadn't seen before. So now that you've identified these gaps, it's time to make your wish list. And I have to say, I've always had a list. I've always shopped with a list. You've probably heard me mention it like a bajillion times. And yet this is the first time where my list feels uber intentional. So I updated my shopping list and I added a couple of notes in there as well, primarily to identify whether or not I could align my values with these purchases. What comes next? A period of reflection and just sitting with those visuals that you created for yourself. What I also like to do is just work with the clothes that I already have in my closet, keeping this new vision in mind. I think this reflection period is exceptionally important because that's where we really learn some lessons. We can adjust our shopping list. It's also a period of more editing. Maybe there are images that really don't resonate with you after you've had a full month to contemplate. I really wanted to make sure that I went through it myself. So often taking time to reflect and just sit with visuals and sit with how clothing makes us feel, it can often be overlooked, but I think it is invaluable. So I hope you found me sharing this process with you helpful. Let me know if you have any questions about it in the comments below, or if you yourself have a certain process that you like to do at the beginning of each year to help you build your personal style and a conscious wardrobe that you will love for years to come. So give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, or if you learned something new, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be back with another slow fashion video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you on April 10th. Okay, ciao!